Okay, let's talk about something pretty much everyone has felt at some point. That feeling that just freezes you in place right when you want to connect with someone. Yeah, we're diving into approach anxiety. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You see someone you're interested in, and your brain is like, okay, cool, just go say hi. But your body has a totally different plan. Suddenly, your palms are sweating, your heart is pounding out of your chest, and you've got that weird, shaky feeling in your stomach. It's a real physical fear response. So, the official term for this whole experience is approach anxiety. It's a phrase that popped up in some of the early social dynamics communities to describe this exact thing. But for years, the reason why we feel this intense fear has been explained by a really popular theory that, well, turns out it's just plain wrong. So let's get into the story we've all been told about where this fear comes from. And, on the surface, it sounds like it makes a ton of sense. The classic explanation goes something like this. It's a primal fear, a leftover bit of programming from our caveman days. Now, it's worth pointing out that the people who came up with this were social theorists, not anthropologists, which is a pretty key detail. The theory, which I call the rival caveman theory, seems logical from where we're standing today. It says that back in the day, walking up to a woman was super risky. She might already be partnered with some bigger, stronger guy. If you made a move, you could get into a fight, maybe even get seriously hurt or killed. Or, at the very least, you'd tank your reputation in the tribe. So the fear, that anxiety, was actually a survival tool. It kept you safe. Makes sense, right? Well, here's the thing. That entire idea is built on a massive misunderstanding of how our ancestors really lived. To get to the real root of approach anxiety, we have to toss out all our modern ideas about dating and social life and instead take a hard look at what life was actually like for almost all of human history. Think about this. From the moment Homo sapiens first appeared, all the way up until about 12,000 years ago when farming started, we lived as nomadic hunter-gatherers. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of years in one very specific kind of society. Just let that number sink in for a second. 97%. For 97% of our history as a species, we lived in these small, tight-knit nomadic tribes. That lifestyle is deeply, deeply baked into our psychology. Our modern world of cities and iPhones, it's just a tiny, tiny blip at the very end of the time. So what was that life like? Well, it was the total opposite of how we live now. Things like personal privacy or private property, they just didn't exist. You lived, ate, slept, and worked with the same group of people your entire life. Everything was shared, food, tools, you name it. Relationships were also way more fluid, and because they didn't have a scientific grasp of pregnancy, a child wasn't seen as belonging to one couple. A child was a child of the whole tribe. And here's the absolute kicker. In a society like that, where you've known every single person since the day you were born, where everything is shared, the fear of approaching a fellow tribe member just wouldn't make sense. There are no strangers to approach. Your approach anxiety would have been at absolute zero. So, if the fear isn't about some rival inside your tribe, then where on earth does it come from? Well, this is where we get to the real answer. And it completely flips that old theory on its head. And this slide says it all, really. The fear was never about competing with your buddy Ugg from the next cave over. The real, gut-level, primal fear our ancestors had was the fear of outsiders. A stranger showing up at the edge of the camp was a huge deal. They could be hostile, they could be carrying diseases, they could be after your resources. That was the real threat. And this table just drives the point home. In a tribe, you were deeply connected to everyone, and a true stranger was a rare, maybe once-a-year event. Now, we live in these isolated little bubbles. We can go days without talking to anyone. Almost every single person you see on your commute or at the grocery store is a stranger. We are literally living in a world of outsiders. And that is the light bulb moment. Our modern world is constantly pressing that ancient stranger danger alarm bell in our brains. So when you feel that jolt of anxiety before talking to someone new, your brain isn't actually worried about rejection. It's having a primal reaction as if you've just stumbled upon someone from a potentially hostile tribe. You're seeing strangers everywhere. Okay, so if our modern world is the source of the problem, what's the fix? Well, this is the great part. Because this whole thing is triggered by our environment, it means we can actually change our environment and our mindset to dial that fear way down. This is so, so important to get. Approach anxiety isn't some deep, unchangeable part of your DNA. It's not fixed. It's more like a volume knob. Our ancestors had it turned down to zero with people in their tribe. Our modern world has cranked that knob all the way up to 10. But the good news is, we can reach over and turn it back down ourselves. So, how do we actually do that? The source lays out 3 really practical steps to re-tribalize your life. First, cut down on your online time. And that's not just about avoiding doom scrolling. It's about breaking the habit of isolation and just getting more face time with the real world. Second, and this one might surprise you, is meditation. Things like loving kindness meditation can literally train your brain to feel more connected and compassionate towards others, breaking down that wall between me and stranger. And third, go find your own tribal activities. Find events where a bunch of strangers come together for one shared purpose. I mean, think about it. You've definitely felt this before. You're at a concert for your favorite band or a game for your team. Everybody's wearing the same colors, they're singing the same songs. For a few hours, you are all in the same tribe. And notice how easy it is to high-five and chat with the strangers around you? The outsider fear just evaporates. It's gone because you have a shared identity. And that right there is the big takeaway. The goal isn't to just get over your fear. It's to completely change your perspective. When you can start seeing the people around you not as a sea of intimidating strangers, but as potential members of your own tribe, that ancient fear just starts to melt away. And of course, this isn't just about dating. It's about seeing everyone as part of the same human tribe, which frees you up to just connect,